Thanks for tuning in to Testify. Subscribe for more real stories of God's goodness. Jesus still changes lives today. Today at Testify, we are so happy to welcome Sheresh. Sheresh, what I know about you is just that you wear the heart of Jesus on your sleeve. So thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
Always about it.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, you're a young guy, you're married, got a family.
Yeah. So I'm 30 years old. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 4 kids. My youngest is now only 5 weeks old, so very new.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
A boy, right?
Yep.
I love how you say that with just deer in headlights. You're like, yes, thank you for your congratulations.
We're pretty over it at this point. Kids are great. Don't get me wrong. I love every single one of them, but it's been a consistent 8 years of no sleep, and 6 hours of sleep sounds really nice right about now. We live in the middle of nowhere is how we define it to everyone, because no one knows where Middleport is. But it's honestly just a town of I think 130 people just outside of Caledonia.
So you can tell your kids to go outside and have a little space, and
Yeah,
except
we
for the
actually-
5-week-old, of course.
We actually go over to our neighbor's place who lives on the river. He's got about 4 acres, and we just say, go have fun, and leave them to their peace, because they really can't go past us. And
Awesome.
there's a bunch of kids that grow that are in the area now. And so they all play around, and all of us get to have a little bit of a breather.
So as a family, you go to church. And so tell me, how did that start? How did you decide that, I'm a dad and I want to lead my family in a way that knows Jesus?
That's a very loaded question, just in the sense of a lot of my life has been trying to figure out who I am as a person. And every time that I've tried to say, I'm this or I'm that, God's been like, no, you're not. You're mine. And so just in light of all the stuff that's happened in my life and sort of how we've ended up where we are, the only answer, the only truth that can be is to go and to follow God and to do my part and do the best that I can to lead others to God as well.
So when did you first know that God is real, God is truth?
I would have been about 16 years old. I was the kind of person that, I seem to still be, but anyways, the kind of person that everyone trusts without batting an eye. So at 16 years old, all my friends, some of my friends, people that I met at a youth conference or stuff like that would start talking to me, and they'd start telling me a lot of what was going on in their lives. Sometimes it's just a way to vent, but other times in light of looking for some sort of advice or suggestion or help in navigating the chaos that was going on.
Right. Yeah. That's a pretty heavy burden as a 16-year-old to have the gift of this listening ear, really, where everyone's coming to you with their heavy burden.
It was a lot. So much so that as time progressed, I started to feel what I describe as an unbearable weight. I oftentimes reference Atlas, the Greek god who was tasked with carrying the world on his shoulders for all eternity. And that sort of image, that depiction was how I felt. And so one night, it sort of reached its peak, and it was a really, really, really stormy night. The kind of night where, if you're out in the streets, your parents, or I guess if you're driving the streets, you kind of pull over to the side and you wait for the storm to calm. If you're out in the woods or whatever it may be, you find the best sort of shelter that you can. It was really, really bad.
Right. So it's one of those nights where it's really dark outside and it's loud and it's windy, there's low visibility.
Yeah.
And you're kind of in this isolated storm bubble almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, being the brilliant person that I am as a 16-year-old male, I climbed out onto the roof of my building, or my parents' place.
Okay.
And I was sort of standing in the rain there, and maybe an hour prior, one of my friends introduced me to the song Praising the Storm by Casting Crowns.
Right.
Ironically, before the storm came. And so listening to it kind of resonated. And then all of a sudden, finding myself in that midst, I'm like, God, if you're real, here I am. I'm giving what I have, which is the little bit of me that's left that I feel I still have control of to you.
Because
And
unbeknownst to you, you were just starting to carry all of these burdens from these friends and these people who were confiding in you.
yeah, I
Yeah.
had no idea at the time.
Yeah.
But that being said, in sort of relinquishing my life in that moment and giving up, the parts of me that I couldn't control, the next morning I woke up and it was like, oh, I feel like I've got all the limberness in my life back.
Okay.
I feel like I can move freely, that there's no burden, there's no weight, there's no stress anymore. And that was the moment. Like that was the, oh wow, yeah, okay, God is present. God is real. God
Yeah.
is actually
Yes.
moving in our midst, despite the fact that we don't hear, we don't see, and we don't feel, if you will, in most cases.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So then, so you mentioned that you were at your parents' house there, and then you had this kind of divine encounter and revelation. So how would your parents receive that? Like you grew up a Christian, and you were born in India, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so both my parents were Christian. They grew up in various churches throughout sort of the region that we lived in.
Okay.
My dad was in a very, very rural pocket of the world, so for him it was like driving 50 kilometers to the nearest church, versus my mom grew up in one of the major cities in India, and so it was like around the corner, actually. If I remember correctly, from where my grandparents grew up is where she went to church.
Okay. Two very different upbringings, and yet they came together. They're both believers. Now, was it several generations? They were...
So my father's great grandfather was the one who first was introduced to Christ by way of missionary, ironically from Manitoba.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then with my mom, it was her and her mother who sort of met Christ around the same time. I don't know a ton of the story there. Just that in families reaching out to my mom's family, they ended up finding their way to church, and so a lot of their life, a lot of what they grew up on was exactly that.
Okay. How did they come to Canada?
Sort of a not so great story. Probably the least hardest thing to talk about, I guess. Just in the way of, when I was born, I was born in the midst of a civil uprising.
Okay. In India.
In India, yeah.
Right. So is this kind of like a southern, or was it exclusive to one area in India that you know of?
To everything that I was told at the time, it was the specific civil uprising was isolated to where we were in India.
Okay.
However, there was a series of civil uprisings going on, and so it was like little pockets of people no longer satisfied with the state of affairs in India and causing commotion because of it.
Okay. Right.
By the time I had turned 3, this little civil uprising had turned into a whole revolt.
Revolt. Or civil war.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't quite at the state of a war, but it certainly was.
Right. An uprising.
Yeah, an uprising.
Yeah. Okay.
And so sort of in that process, my grandfather turned to my dad, who was the only one in the family with kids at the time, and he said, "Hey, listen, get out."
Okay. And this was your father's
This
father?
would have been my father's father,
Okay.
yeah. So part of why we're here today is actually because of him, in that he wanted to make sure that we were safe, and we were not in a position of any sort of fear or trial or troubles.
Right.
And so he facilitated the entire process of the immigration, which included apparently a very large sum of money to get us from India to Canada. And so that's sort of how we ended up here.
So you were just saying that your grandfather made this decision. He said, you guys need to get out because you're in danger. You have young children. They cannot grow up during however long this takes, basically, to resolve itself.
Yeah.
So then your parents were united in their thoughts on this. So all the paperwork was completed. Everything had been paid. And then, so where did you go after that? Your family, do you have an idea? Now, you were quite young, right? Like, you were only
4.
4. So, and you have siblings as well.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I've only had the one.
So where did they settle?
We ended up going through a series of events. Moving countries, you can't really bring a ton with you. So
That's right.
4 suitcases is all we really had. And so throughout the course of 3 or 4 months, we bounced around from friends' places to a hotel for a little bit.
Okay.
Sort of trying to figure out what we were doing while we figured out employment and all that other stuff as well. Eventually in 2003, my dad was able to put away enough funds to buy a house in Brampton.
Okay.
And so much like where we are now in the middle of nowhere, this little house in the edge of suburbia, the edge of suburban Brampton is where we grew up for the next
Right.
10 years, something like that.
Okay.
When we moved there was 2 high schools. And so my high school, my grade 9 year had 3,958 students in it.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, I grew up in a high school of 600 people.
And that's the thing, right? Whenever you talk to, and even in Toronto, when we eventually moved back to Toronto, it's like, it's like maybe 1,200 people or students in a school. So no one was like, the idea that there were almost 4,000 students in a building was unfathomable to everyone.
Right.
But that's how far, like how isolated, or I guess how densely populated for how isolated Brampton was at the time.
So you were growing up in this high school. This is crowded, probably extremely overpopulated, and you had all these friends and then all these burdens, and then God chooses those moments to reveal himself to you.
Yeah.
Fast forward to now, like where do you experience these God moments?
This is probably the most real definition of a sort of a testimonies I can sort of present. These last 5 years, or I guess now 6 years, have been an absolute whirlwind. And so I was explaining to Dave just a little bit earlier, we ended up buying a house in the middle of nowhere, and that's how we ended up here. But the story of us buying that house is quite the story in and of itself, wherein my dad calls me really, really, really randomly in the middle of the day and says, "Hey, I'm at work. You're not doing anything. Go check out this house."
Right.
My oldest daughter was then 6 months old, and so I was free to do whatever I wanted, and she loved car rides. So I turned to my wife and I'm like, "Hey, let's go for a drive." And she's like, "Okay, why not?"
Right.
So we ended up driving out to this middle of nowhere space that we'd never really been before. We checked out the house, and my wife immediately fell in love with it. And so I called my dad. I'm like, "So it's a really nice house. Everything looks really good. It does need a lot of work, but I mean, for this price, it's going to be like that." And he's like, "Okay, what do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. What am I supposed to do?" And he's like, "Put in an offer."
Okay. So he's just saying, "Hey, like you're grown up, do it."
Yeah. So we called and we put in an offer, and that night at 10:55, I get a call from my dad, and he's like, "Hey, so you bought a house."
Oh my goodness. Okay. So it just happened that quickly. I went for a drive with my daughter, and then now I own a house.
So that's sort of the synopsis of it, but the rest of it is where God really made himself known, just in the fact that we were in the process of looking to buy a house, but I was nowhere near ready to be able to do something like that from a financial standpoint.
Right.
One of the stipulations to purchasing the house was that we needed to have a mortgage approval within 5 days, because again, being nowhere near ready to, nothing was sort of in the works for that. I had just started a new role at the company I was in, and it was a commission role, which meant that
It's almost like being your own owner.
yeah.
Yes.
And in that respect, being so short in the role, there was no definitive pay, and so they couldn't qualify me for any specific number. And so, as we sort of went through the hoops, we called various people and worked through a series of things. We were like, "How the heck are we gonna do this?"
Right.
We've got 5 days to figure out how to get me or approved for any amount of money to get this house. I kid you not, 6 minutes before this conditional offer expired, we got a call saying, "Hey, you've been approved for the amount that you needed for the mortgage." And it was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're actually buying a house.
Yes. Yes.
But then we move sort of to the next part of this conversation, or the next part of purchasing a house, which is the down payment.
Right.
Same deal. I was not prepared. We didn't really know what was going on, and so we had no sort of preparation. Or I shouldn't say no preparation, but we had very little compared to what was needed.
Right.
And so,
Because you literally went for a drive in the morning and then bought a house that night.
yeah, exactly. So we sort of worked out the numbers. We looked at what we were looking for, and if I remember correctly, we needed just shy of $14,000 to make up the difference of what we needed for the down payment for this house. And so I'm kind of looking around. I'm trying to see if I can find money somewhere, try and pick up an odd job to make a couple extra bucks here and there. Mind you, I did have about 2 months, so it wasn't like a...
Right. It wasn't like 5 days like the first time around.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I hear you.
And so we were sort of doing what we could where we could to make up money.
Yes.
All said and done, by the time that period was over, I was really only able to scrape up about $1,000 more. Needless to say, after a bit of a back and forth in conversations with a financial manager, they were able to get Sarah's OSAP approved.
Right.
The amount that was approved was unreal, mind you. But the crazier part about that is that she got a grant for $13,000. Meaning
Wow.
that...
So basically that was not part of the loan. That was just
Yeah.
the exact amount that you needed
Yeah.
to be where you are.
And so, every step of the process in getting this house has been like, hey, we don't know what we're going to do. And God's like, don't worry. I got you.
Right.
And that was just the start of this sort of unbelievable unraveling of life that has continually been examples of us saying, hey, we don't know what to do. And God's saying, don't worry, I got you.
Yes.
One of the most recent examples being that I've actually been unemployed for about 4 months now.
Okay.
It's been the first time that I've sort of been able to take a step back and pause and figure out what I want to do with my life since my dad had a heart attack a while ago.
Okay.
And so I started taking the opportunity thinking, it'll be fine. I've got a little bit of time. I can figure it out.
Right.
But little by little, as time has progressed, it's been sort of harder and harder to realize, well, one, to figure out what I want to actually do with my life, and two, to find a job because the
Right.
job market sucks right now.
Right.
But amidst all of that and amidst the little cushion that we had, we've been able to successfully pay off almost all the bills that we have coming. We're able to work around a bunch of the stuff. We've never been in a position where we've been overwhelmingly stressed with how do we deal with tomorrow,
Right.
or what's going to happen tomorrow because we don't know how we're going to deal with this problem or this situation. And God has been consistently just, hey, I see you've got this problem. Hey, let me introduce you to the solution.
Yes.
And I mean, I can go through story after story after story over the course of the last 5 years of where it's been, here's what some would define as an almost impossible problem.
Yes.
And here is an unbelievable solution. Consistently.
So if you were to talk to somebody, a friend or a stranger, it doesn't matter, and let's say they find themselves in this impossible situation, and sometimes we can so easily say, oh, God's got you, no problem, and it comes across almost flippantly, right? Like it comes across as like, oh, well, you're in a great spot, so you don't need anything. So of course God got you because you don't need anything. But if they were in that situation, knowing where you are now and where you've been from now, the grown-up Sheresh to the 16-year-old Sheresh on the rooftop, just experiencing that level of connection and peace, what would you say to them?
It's never easy. In fact, a bunch of young adults recently got baptized. And I've had the pleasure of walking with quite a few of them through sort of the process leading up to that. And the first thing that I told them when I was fortunate enough to be right there with them, the first thing that I told them was, hey, get ready because this is where it gets hard. And that's sort of the statement that I tell everyone. This is the hard part. The hard part is being in the moment and not knowing what you're doing. The hard part is being stuck and being lost and being uncertain as to what's going to happen next. It's very, very, very difficult to sort of overcome that hurdle without understanding that there is a peace and that there is a sort of light at the end of the tunnel. And it may not be the light that you expect. In fact, more often than not, it's not. So don't be looking for the solution that you want. Look for the solution that you need. That's sort of the reassurance that I give almost everyone that asks me how I get through life, or this is a hard time, or I'm struggling with this. It's it sucks. It's going to suck. There's no way to overcome the sucking.
Yeah. But
as long as you hold true to your belief, as long as you hold true to the fact that there will always be a tomorrow, it'll come. And if you need something to hold on to, some sort of tether to keep you grounded, God's a really good one.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the best response that I could give you.
Awesome.
It does change from time to time, because sometimes it's a conversation that pops up in the moment and you respond in the moment, and then you don't remember what you said 10 minutes later. But that's sort of the roundabout answer that I would give to anyone who asks me about how life is and how to respond to the faith question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sheresh. We just really appreciate your sharing and your boldness, and just your openness to share about hard times and the hope that God gives you to walk through those things, and how you know He is true. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got a story, right?
Thanks for listening to Testify. Share it with someone today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a powerful testimony. Until next time, may the Lord make His face shine upon you.